Batch 2 was produced with Kitchissippi. And so what we did was we took their Boom IPA and ran it through the still. And so now we have this wonderful spirit that's captured all of the hop and malt character. You know, you get...
Smells like a beer.
Exactly, yeah. A little bit of pine, grapefruit, guava.
That's deceiving.
Yeah, this is Amarillo and Chinook hops. And that definitely comes through on the nose.
Awesome.
And yeah, it tastes like that first sip of beer.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to All Beer Inside. Today we are diverting from beer, but we're back in the Kanata area, and we're at Ogham Craft Spirits with Adam.
Hi, everyone.
Hi. So you're owner and distiller of I'm going to keep saying Ogham, I know it. Ogham Spirits, right?
Yes, exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Perfect. So thank you very much for hosting us today, taking time out of your clearly busy schedule to speak with us about your distilled products, your distilled alcohols, mostly gin from what I can tell. And I look forward to trying the products. So let's start with the first one you got here on the tasting list.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, thank you for joining us. Yeah. So yeah, here at Ogham Craft Spirits, we're approaching everything with a very local flair, right? And drawing on a little bit of Irish inspiration. So this first spirit is called Poitín. It's in the green label. And this is a very Irish spirit. It was actually illegal in Ireland for quite some time. It's a barley recipe. We've added a little bit of corn, a little bit of oat. The style is characterized with that grassy aroma.
Yeah, you can all get that in the nose.
Yeah, and that's usually where people decide if they're already going to like it or not.
As we do, a toast.
Cheers.
No, like that crazy, you know, with the cheaper alcohols, it's just like all burn.
Exactly. Yeah. So this is 45%, and that smoothness. When we talk about smoothness, we don't realize what we're actually talking about is sulfur content.
Okay.
And it's that sulfur that causes the burn in your throat. Ethanol is more of a chest-warming, tongue-drying sensation. Yeah. So we achieve that smoothness with a really religious cleaning program of the copper in the still. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't even imagine we'll get to that later about the difficulties of how just getting equipment alone.
Yes,
what it is. So, awesome. So, what made you decide to own and operate a distillery and craft kind of tasting room, bottle shop, cocktail bar?
Of course, yeah. So, part of it was I wanted to find something that represented Ottawa. I've had this passion to start a business for a while. I wasn't clear on what that was going to be just yet, but I was very fortunate in my previous job to travel a fair bit, and through those travels, I found that the best way to take in local culture was through bars and restaurants and grocery stores, more so than just paying admission at a museum. And so when I would return, I was like, okay, where is Ottawa's equivalent to this? Not necessarily, I've been to Italy, where's the best Italian restaurant here? But where's the best Ottawa version of this or that? And so I dabbled at home a little bit with home brewing, with winemaking. I've ultimately decided that spirits was probably where I wanted to be because there were so few, especially at the time. And I did 2 certificates in this to make sure that I really knew what I was doing. Of course, owning a still is illegal unless you get the license. And so I wanted to learn on somebody else's equipment before really diving into this. Yeah.
Very cool. So home passion project to going out in there and doing it. So.
Exactly, yeah. It looked like the stars had aligned in 2019, and so that's where we really put rubber to road. But of course, we know what 2020 was like.
Yeah. I mean, it's so interesting because we're at the point where I believe we've interviewed businesses that were like 50-50, where businesses were open before the pandemic versus businesses that opened during the pandemic.
Right.
It's nice that you're here now. I'm guessing somewhat successful. You're getting pretty good turnover. You're in a pretty decent area. You got a Costco across the street.
That's exactly it. Yeah, we're very very happy to finally be open. We opened in September 2021. We find the main hurdle though is we were thrown a bunch of lockdowns in Ontario, and it was hard to convince people to go out of their normal way when the government was telling them to stay at home. So we feel that now that the restrictions have lifted and people feel happy about going outside and coming into places, this is now when we're really starting to open. And it's been fantastic because we've had pretty much 3 private events booked every every week for the last month.
That's awesome.
We open up the doors to the production space. We do a tour. We lay up some charcuterie in the back, and then yeah, it's a great time.
Oh, that's fantastic. And like you said, you just crap the pandemic. Well, let's keep chugging along. At this point, kettle pot committed. It's a lot of money to invest. You can't just give it up.
But
right?
that's exactly
it.
Yeah.
Especially in Canada, you don't want to be declaring bankruptcy before your business even opens.
Exactly, yeah. And there were some very serious conversations at home about, okay, do we just cut our losses and roll this up before it even started, or do we press on? I'm very happy that we pressed on, because now we formed partnerships and found unique ingredients and created spirits that you can't find anywhere else in the city, and to some extent you can't find anywhere else in Canada.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Love to hear that. Ogham's pretty unique name. What made you decide to name the distillery that and not Adams or your last name, which
exactly,
we're not going to mention. It's like, why not just Adams Craft Spirits, and why Ogham?
Of course, yeah. So I had my family. Sorry, on the microphone. My family has Irish ancestry.
Okay.
And so we went there to kind of retrace our roots. And I had this very strong connection and experience over there with the Ogham alphabet. And Ogham translates to alphabet in Irish.
Okay.
You may catch me say Ogham on occasion. It's just a little more Anglo-friendly, but so every character in Ogham is actually named after a different tree that grows in Ireland. So these ancient people, going back to before 400 AD, built an entire written language around plant life, trees that grow in Ireland. And so we've taken that kind of that really local approach, that local inspiration, and said, okay, if we create a distillery, everything has to be local. And there's all of the grain that we use in our spirits comes from farmers in the Ottawa Valley. We have our seasonal product we'll get to in a moment is 100% maple sap, and the farm is just in Balderson.
Cool.
Yeah.
I always try and support a local company when it comes to beverages and food and stuff like that. Now, I'm not going to lie, I buy crap off Amazon all the time that I just can't get here. So it is both, but primarily a majority of my paycheck outside, obviously, necessary living is local products. Okay. Yeah. And that's where a place like yours comes in is, great, I can buy yours, or even the guys from Trailer Park Boys, they make a whiskey. So it's like, well, I'm supporting a whiskey distillery out from Newfoundland. At least to me, it's still a local company.
Exactly. Keeping the dollars in Canada is very important. And so when you come into us, for example, you spend your money with us. This money then gets passed on to local farmers, and the labels are printed locally. The tops are from a company in Oakville, right? Like we spend a lot of money in Canada keeping our product. Yeah,
that's so important to me as a Canadian. I'm a very prideful Canadian. I know we have our problems, but still, it's like I'd much rather be in Canada right now than some other places in the world. From all the things I've seen, yes, we have problems, but still, I'm a proud Canadian and will always be one. So,
of course,
at least in my mind, if the opportunity comes up and like, hey, move to Scotland for a super crazy job, I'm like, oh, I'm Scottish now. Exactly. But it's always about supporting local. And like you said, just getting your local farmers, all your local. I'm guessing malts, barleys, wheat, and all that stuff. Juniper, since it is gin, it's all local farmers.
Exactly.
And even if it's not, let's say Ontario, you got Quebec right next door, or if you have to travel, around, at least it's there. So.
Exactly. Yeah.
Continuing on the Canadian-owned or local, you mentioned pre-show your distill.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. We again approaching this from that Canadian point of view. We wanted to make sure that all the equipment was made in Canada. And so we worked with Specific Mechanical out in BC, and now we can boast that we actually have the only Canadian-made system in Eastern Ontario. So that's a big point of pride for us. It's, of course, a beautiful piece of work, and when you come into the distillery yourself, it's right there, right? It greets you the same time as the bartender.
That's great. What's this next beverage I'm going to be trying?
Right on. So next, we're going to go into the pot still gin.
Okay.
So this is actually our only product that is gin. Gin is made with the juniper berry. It's the only mandatory ingredient. The pot still style is different from London Dry. So you'll find This isn't as piney on the nose. It's a little floral, if anything. It's not even very piney on the palate. We, again, using local botanicals. For this batch, we actually picked the juniper in Mississippi Mills. And we use coriander and orris root. That gives us almost like a citrusy peppercorn kind of profile.
Cool.
Because it was only double distilled before we directly infused the botanicals, and then it becomes a triple distilled spirit, you'll find it smoother on your tongue than a London Dry would be.
Awesome.
Cheers.
A toast. Once again, that's always like my nervousness about trying kind of local or higher end products is I'm just so used to kind of intro, like let's say, Jack Daniels and all that stuff.
Sure, yeah.
Where you just get the ethanol burn or the sulfur burn. And now it's like, part of my mind's like, you're going to get the burn. And you're like, oh, it's not there. Sweet. So, yeah, I'm getting like the berries too on my aftertaste. So.
Yeah. And so we find this is definitely the most recognizable product that we produce. Some people are willing to actually come in and just grab a bottle off the shelf without even tasting it. Whereas everything else that we do is a little outside of the norm, and so they definitely want to try it. But again, it's a completely different gin. Some people remark that it's more flavorful than the standard brands. Yes. Some people remark that it's not as flavorful as the standard brands. But in both cases, we're finding it's kind of a gateway gin. And so for people who are rediscovering gin or looking for another option, some people have never tried it. This is a really nice way of starting to explore that because, of course, in Quebec especially, the gin scene is booming.
Oh, yeah.
And there's so many to try now, and everybody has their own nice little twist on them, right?
Yep.
And
it's wild right now.
Yeah.
Like, just they're popping up left, right, and center, and I'm like, don't have time to interview all of them. So it's great. Like I'm finding that we are starting to get more breweries, cideries, distilleries, vineyards across Canada as a whole, because I'm assuming that the local government, Ontario, Quebec, are like, oh, here's business opportunity and tax money for us.
Well, exactly, yeah. And that was one of the things that definitely enabled this distillery to open, because when I started preparing my business plan, now 10, almost 11 years ago, there were very punitive measures in place if you wanted to start a small distillery. And over time, they changed some of the definitions, they relaxed the tax, they allow us to sell at farmers markets now, for example. Yeah. And there's all those little things that gradually welcomes businesses like these. Yeah.
Yeah, especially I know Ontario adapted probably the quickest to getting spirits and beverages in people's homes versus, unfortunately, where we live in Quebec is we have to go through the big boy, the SAQ.
Of course.
Whereas I know, Chris, and I'm not sure about yourself, but people could order online. You could just ship it to them directly.
Absolutely, yeah. We ship through Canada Post, so anywhere that Canada Post goes, so can our products. It's nice that they're not carbonated.
Yeah.
And they don't have to be kept cold. So there's that. But we also do local delivery in most of Ottawa, and you can always order for pickup. You can come in. And I guess what's not on camera right now is our tasting room, right? Yes. So you can come in and leverage our experience in making cocktails with these spirits. You can have the tasting flight, which is what we're doing now, and maybe snack on some charcuterie as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so as you mentioned, like this is kind of your gateway gin. So I guess people who are used to like Tanqueray and Bombay,
exactly.
It's like, what's this local stuff? I'm only used to the big guys, and you're like, try ours. Oh, I like it. It's like, then buy a bottle.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing is, the alcohol in general has this whole kind of secret history of lobbying behind it. Yeah. And gin especially was defined by the Victorians as London Dry, and they essentially outlawed every other way of producing gin. And so what we've done here is a little more artisanal, a little more closer to what the Dutch were doing before the British even got a hold of it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Outside the pandemic, what were some other kind of roadblocks and difficulties you ran into creating just the Ogham brand?
Definitely outside of the pandemic, because that's a whole other conversation.
In the before times, as I like to call it.
Exactly, yeah. So, setting up a distillery, there is a lot of paperwork and licensing, and one of the biggest things actually is distilleries are still defined as industrial operations. So they have to go into high industrial zones, and this is just a hang-on from when you had massive places like Gooderham and Worts, which is Toronto's distillery district now, they sprawled whole neighborhoods and they were a high industry, but now small guys like us are able to set up shop literally anywhere, but the law hasn't kept up with us. And so part of this was getting an engineering team together to prepare what's called an alternative solution. So kind of an engineering study that says, yes, distilling is dangerous, but it's a smaller system. We'll have these new modern emergency measures in place. We'll cap how much alcohol is stored in here at any given time, and then approaching the provincial and municipal governments with that to get them to sign on. So where we are right now is zoned as light industrial, which was very convenient and part of that conversation, but it still gets a little bit of foot traffic, right? It's a really nice plaza. And of course, we're right next to Evergreen Craft Ales, so there's a lot of synergy, which we'll come to in a moment, but also in terms of kind of sharing a customer base, right? Since the pandemic and kind of the reopening, there's a lot of their customers that are returning to the plaza for the first time in 2 years, what seems like 5 years, and going, wait a second, this wasn't there before. And so, it's been good that way.
Because I know the last time I was at Evergreen Craft before we interviewed Chris was this was, I think, empty, or maybe a yoga studio or something, and you got a spa next to you and a marijuana shop. So I'm sure there's some sort of traffic, I'm going to go for my spa day. Hey, what's this gin thing? So
absolutely, and the fun part too is actually the spa is licensed and they do carry our gin.
Nice.
And so as you're having your hair, your nails, whatever work done, you can enjoy one of our gin and tonics on their side of the wall.
The city of Kanata was very welcoming when you brought them a business plan, or?
Yeah, exactly. We had a lot of great small business support here. The councillor was very on board and willing to help in any way that we could. There were certainly some conversations that took a while to find the right person, but his office put us directly in touch, right? Like his mentality seems to be, why should the government stand in the way of business? Which is great from a business owner standpoint. Yeah.
No, I always like hearing that when neighborhoods or municipalities are like, yes, please, bring. We need business here.
Exactly, yeah. I like to say we're trying to make Kanata cool, right? With us, the breweries that are opening, all the other things. Because we were, for quite a long time, known as just a bedroom community of people who work downtown. But now we're offering some reasons to stay local and not drive so far, right?
Instead of driving to downtown Ottawa and then coming back to watch the Senators game, you could just come here first.
Exactly,
and the Senators are right there.
Exactly. So. You can even leave your car in our parking lot and walk to the game. So
it's even better. What was the first product you ever distilled yourself?
So here, formally, the first batch of gin that we did was the very first thing. I wanted to make sure that it was the gin, even though it requires a little more work than our Poitín, because gin is something that's recognizable, right? Okay. So we did our opening in September, actually, with only gin on the shelf. And then it was another few weeks before we got the Poitín into bottles. But we actually started not with fully local grains on that first batch of gin. The hardest ingredient for us to find was corn. Despite the fact that I can throw a stone and hit cornfields. This, where the building is, actually used to be a cornfield as well. But all of it is pre-sold to larger companies, right? And so we worked with the farmers and the mill at Ottawa Valley Grain Products in Carp, and put the word out that, hey, here's a guy looking to buy hundreds of kilos of corn at a time. Is anybody willing to do business? And they found someone. And so that was what we took. Since that first batch of gin, we've been able to boast that we're 100% Ottawa Valley grain.
Awesome. Love it. Love hearing that stuff. Yeah, because even when we first met you and you're so talkative about, like, I could hear the passion behind your voice about your business. So it's like, okay, save that for when we interview you. So and you're clearly very passionate about what you do, which is the most important part. Because as I say, working is not fun, but if you love what you're doing, you don't work a day in your life. So
exactly,
I'm sure that's more important as you wake up and you're like, off to the distillery. I'm gonna serve some happiness to some people, and I'm sure you bust your butt back there to no end, but. I also have a very supportive team as well. We're still small. We're just really 3 people. But the 2 folks that I hired, they've really picked it up quickly. I hope I'm creating a supportive environment for them. And it's been great having them. Your names, you stuck with kind of what you made. You didn't come up with any uniqueness about your labels, your bottles, and even the logo Who kind of came up with all that originality?
Certainly, yeah. So my wife definitely has a very strong influence on this. We also worked with Character Creative, who is an Ottawa-based design firm, and I gave. I'm not very artistic myself, and so I expressed my desires. You know, I wanted this to look like an older brand that maybe you had seen before, but you don't quite remember, and hopefully then we seem a little more established than we are. Of course, we wanted it to look premium because we're asking people to pay a premium price. That's, of course, the other side of supporting local is that sometimes you have to pay a little bit more. And we wanted it to look very organic, right? We went with a textured paper label. The glass bottles actually are 100% recycled.
Okay.
And cool. Unfortunately, not something we were able to find in Canada. They had to be imported from the States, but that 100% glass, recycled glass was the selling point for us. Was, you know, okay, we can't do this Canadian, but we can do it green.
Yeah.
Let's stick with that. And so yeah, I'm really happy with how it came together. We went through 1 or 2 iterations, of course, but this is more or less what the design looked like, and it is working in a way. We do have people come in and they say, wait a minute, I've seen this before, right? Like, aren't you available at such and such place or whatever? And I say, no. No, we only opened in September, and I guarantee you've never seen us before. Yeah. So very happy with that we achieved that effect.
Same thing, our previous distillery interview, Trois Lacs in Salaberry de Valleyfield, that was their selling point, is like, yeah, these are the bottles we have. And they're like, they're bottles that are like, they feel thick,
right? Yeah,
but it's deceiving. It's the same kind of bottom too, with a little dent in the middle.
Yeah,
it's the same kind of bottle. It's just a little wider with thinner at the top, and it's okay. Like, this is pretty unique, and like, yeah, that's one of our selling points. And they have 3 flavored gins right now. Okay. And then you mentioned like the gin scene in Quebec. I can't keep up with it right now.
It's booming, exactly. Yeah. There's all kinds of things.
And that's like, with this show, we're trying to. We believe in diversity in the beverage industry, in the craft industry as a whole. So why not as our show, have diversity as well by interviewing distilleries and vineyards. Well, vineyards not yet, but cideries as well.
Yeah.
And it's the whole, like we've said time and time again, it's supporting a local company. So.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think the distilling scene is still growing in Canada, and I find there's already some talk of this place is better than that place, and I think that the general population is trying to make it seem like a competitive environment. Yeah. But we're all very supportive of each other, and we see that there is a lot of space, especially on your liquor shelf, your bar cart, whatever it is you have at home. In many cases, you need multiple spirits to make a cocktail. Yep. So why not get out and try things and really experience for yourself what you think is going to work for your own palate, right? Yeah.
So, I mean, speaking on that general line too, I like to ask, so somebody comes in, picks up a bottle, does a taster flight. Some other friends, either distilleries, craft breweries, cideries in the area that you highly suggest, even restaurants, like how are your brand? Like, I come in from Montreal, clearly. I'm from Montreal. Well, not clearly, but I am from Montreal. I come in for the day and I'm like, oh yeah, I got a few hours to kill. And okay, check out clearly Evergreen Craft, we've mentioned multiple times. But who else would I hit as a craft local supporter?
First, a restaurant. Poitin. Okay. They're on Elgin Street, downtown Ottawa. They were one of our first licensee supporters, and they're doing incredible things with our Eau-de-Vies. And Corey there, who runs their bar program, he keeps us informed and he keeps in touch, and he likes our new and crazy things because he gets to do cool cocktails with them. And so they're a big fan of us. We're a big fan of them as well. Of course, you said Evergreen Craft Ales. We have a collaboration that we're going to talk about in just a few seconds with Kitchissippi, who are in Bell's Corners, and of course you've interviewed Paul before. Yeah. A short funny story is that actually their new brewmaster, who goes by German Phil, lived across from me in residence at university.
Nice.
And so we actually lost touch after that year, and then I was at Kitchissippi and saw him working there, like, wait a second. And so through the two of us kind of rekindling that friendship, we've accomplished this collaboration we'll taste as the last one today. Yeah. And then of course a friend of mine who started a distillery in Val d'Or called Alpha Tango, and so we actually did the same course together in BC, and we're expressing our plans to open a distillery our own respective distilleries. And through our setups, we were always exchanging texts and videos and how are you doing? How are we doing? And they've just been really good supporters of us. We do spirit swaps as well.
Cool.
And I haven't had the opportunity to go out and visit their place just yet. Val-d'Or is a bit of a drive from Ottawa.
Just love it.
But hoping that's in our future very soon. Yeah.
That's awesome. Love hearing it. What's the next beverage we're trying here?
Absolutely. So this is our maple Eau-de-Vie.
Ooh.
And so, give it a smell. You'll get this incredible dulce de leche, a little bit of vanilla. This spirit is only maple sap, and that's why we get to call it an Eau-de-Vie. It's only made with maple. There's no sweeteners added after the fact. It's actually kind of between a vodka and a white rum, the way that it's come together. And again, supporting local, we found a sugar shack in Balderson, Ontario, and we're able to explain what we wanted to do. They really understood. They were kind of the first company we approached that really got it.
Yeah.
And this is something that would be called acerum in Quebec. We're not allowed to use that term in Ontario, otherwise we'll get the pants litigated off of us. But that's essentially what this spirit is. So
fantastic. A toast.
Toast.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's almost like a lighter maple liqueur.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And some people, there's a retronasal effect. You get a little bit of that maple sap. Again, because it was the sap and not syrup, it doesn't hit you in the face like, wow, this is a maple product. Mm-hmm. And so our plans for this are that we just have the one batch right now of the unaged. We released it in Perth at their Festival of Maples this year. And now that we have had our hands on to it, we understand how it comes off of our system. We actually want to try to do 2, maybe 3 batches next year where we offer this unaged white Eau-de-Vie.
Yeah.
We'll probably maybe offer an amber where we sweeten it with a little bit of syrup to become a liqueur, and then also put a cask down for aging and hopefully release a 1-year version of it.
Well, so I'm sure approaching a sugar shack after the last 2 years of them not being able to open to clients and stuff, it's like, we need a lot of this. Well, like, really?
Yeah. Well, initially, because this is probably our most expensive spirit to make and also to sell, therefore. And a lot of the producers said, no, there was a maple shortage. We know that we can move all of our stuff as syrup. So if you want it, you have to buy it as syrup at syrup prices. And these guys at Ennis Maple Products realized that, well, hey, if you don't need the syrup, then we don't have to buy wood, we don't have to spend time, we don't have to do this, we don't have to do that. And so it was the first matchup where everybody realized, like, okay, this actually makes sense.
It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and once again, another local company. So.
Exactly, yeah. Awesome. And since it behaves kind of like a rum, kind of like a vodka, we're using it in a pina colada here. You can also put it into a White Russian instead of the vodka. It's definitely more domestic and a little more flavorful.
We'll have to tell one of our friends who loves White Russians about this.
Okay, yeah,
I'm sure it'll be quite the kick in his pants that he wouldn't expect, and I'm sure he'd love. As a Canadian, you're supposed to love maple. It's like,
exactly.
So I have to add these caveats, Avi. When you have the time, and when it's a little safer, where you don't have to wear masks on hours on planes, if you're to take, what's kind of a booze-based or a distillery-based vacation you'd like to take that you've never taken before?
Okay, that I've never taken before. Yeah. So I guess I don't know exactly where yet, but I do want to find a destination that is known for a really unique spirit. I've had the fortune of going to Greece and having Mastika, Metaxa, Sapporo, all those things that you really can't find at the LCBO here. Yeah. And so with a little bit of research, maybe find myself in Spain or Portugal or somewhere like that. Certainly France as well, which I've never been to of age. The cognac region, for example. How do they work with grapes and really educate? But we have actually been invited to attend the first ever Poitín symposium in Dublin.
Cool.
And
That's awesome.
So exactly, we would get to go represent Canada with our Poitín. It would be adjudicated, so hopefully we come back with a medal in one of the categories.
Yeah.
And that is supposed to happen in November. Again, COVID willing.
Yeah. Okay, so usually we'll go into collabs. So you mentioned the last beverage is a collab, so let's combine that.
Yeah, so this is our Bierschnapps.
Okay.
This batch, we just rolled into batch 2. Batch 2 was produced with Kitchissippi. And so what we did was we took their Boom IPA and ran it through the still. And so now we have this wonderful spirit that's captured all of the hop and malt character. You know, you get...
Smells like a beer.
Exactly, yeah. A little bit of pine, grapefruit, guava.
That's deceiving.
Yeah, this is Amarillo and Chinook hops. And that definitely comes through on the nose.
Awesome.
And yeah, it tastes like that first sip of beer.
Okay. Well, a toast. It's even like, I know it's my brain, but it tastes carbonated at the same time. I know it's not, but...
No, we find a lot of people associate this flavor with carbonation. And so we started recommending, if you take this home, you can definitely enjoy it neat, but maybe you also want to make a cocktail, definitely try it in a Tom Collins.
Cool.
You get the volume back, you get that carbonation, a little bit of that sweet lemon flavor, and then it tastes exactly like a lemon radler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's deceiving, and like I said, I know it's in my mind that's like, this is carbonated like a beer, even though it's not. So it's deceiving, and yeah, having that factor is you could do that. So awesome. Oh yeah, I mentioned who created the logo, because I don't think you mentioned that.
Right. So Character Creative ultimately created that logo for us. The circle and the wings around it are just kind of embellishment, but I call it the table shave. Yeah. That glyph is the Irish character Ifine. And Ifine was eventually anglicized into that accented I in Poitín. Okay. And so Ifine means pine. It kind of looks like a branch with pine needles on it, and that's kind of how that alphabet was designed. And I call it the table because it looks like a side view of the table, but tables bring people together, right? It's what we gather around, it's where we share stories. And the original concept for the tasting room here was that we would just have one long table, kind of a German banquet table in a way, which would force you to sit next to your neighbor and have a conversation, and we would leave some topics on the table to get that started. But of course, COVID.
Yeah, I'm sure that's, Germany's like, we haven't been able to do Oktoberfest the last 2 years, and like, or Bose, well, we'll see now, because Bose is now owned by Steam Whistle. It's just like, please bring back an Oktoberfest, but also let's be respectful of the disease that's spreading around through people's lives.
Exactly, yeah.
I did want to mention, you have any future collabs planned, or who you'd like to work with?
Absolutely. Well, so the Bierschnapps, we started, batch 1 was with Evergreen, batch 2 was with Kitchissippi. We want to keep this as an evolving product so that we can demonstrate how it changes when we have a different input beer. So we've had conversations with Whippersnapper, with Calabogie, Small Pony. We're putting word out there that if anybody is interested in working with us, we would love to do that. We do have a collaboration that will also return in the fall. Okay. Our first ever collab, which was the cider Eau-de-Vie. We took a hard cider from Farmgatecider.ca in Arnprior and distilled that. And that was our first time ever actually working with somebody else's product as an input. And it was so popular. We released it in November. It sold out by Christmas. And we still have people asking when it's coming back. Yeah. And I just have to remind them that we're still waiting for apples to grow. And so this fall it should be coming back as batch 2.
Yeah, it's the same like any craft beverage I consume. It's like, oh, I had it. When's it coming back? Well, we just sold it. Yeah, but when's it coming back?
Exactly, yeah.
Oh, well, we have to. No, I don't care. I don't want to hear excuses. As a consumer, I want now.
Right.
I mean, the consumer, they say, is always right. We know that's not true, but most of the time, it's good to have a demand for something that people are so like, they're coming here. Like you said, somebody just spent way too much money at Costco, and it's like, okay, now I need a beer to calm down. And, hey, what's this distillery? Or, oh, hey, somebody comes from the marijuana or the spa, like somebody served a cocktail, and I'm gonna go buy a bottle over there. So you guys seem to be pretty interconnected. I don't know about the martial arts studio bringing over too many people, but
we can start there before you come to us.
Yeah, before you get kicked in the face, come and enjoy a drink. So.
We do find that there's a vice for everybody here in a way, and so there are some couples, for example, who arrive. One of them does or does not like beer, right? Or one of them is into weed, the other one isn't. And so this plaza certainly offers a little bit of something for everyone.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I kind of love this area. When, I originally discovered Chris is evergreen. It's like, it's a garage. Weird. And then a couple of years later, I'm like, oh my God, he's finally got a place. And then come back, and now there's you. I'm like, oh, it's great. And who knows, next could be a cidery across the street for all we know, who's bringing it from their local orchard. So it seems there's a chance for expansion in this kind of part of Kanata.
Absolutely.
And just, I'm sure the draw from the stadium, people must, instead of paying for parking over there, which is a nightmare.
Exactly.
As a Montrealer who's gone to events there, it sucks.
Exactly.
From now on, now I know I can just come here, I can enjoy a cocktail here, go to the game, come back, have a beer while the stadium and whatever else empties out, and then head back to Montreal. So,
Exactly, yeah.
That's awesome. What's next as the brand?
So we're here for a couple of years, right? We're going to try to continue to grow. I've got some equipment purchases in mind that will hopefully speed up our throughput. And ultimately, we have a dream of expanding into a larger distilling estate, kind of the way that you see in Scotland of those really old established brands. Have to move a few more bottles of gin before then, but we do hope to move not too far when we make that jump. And of course, the Poitín is something we didn't cover. Is actually it's aging into our whiskey.
Okay.
And so in 2024, that first cask is going to be available as a whiskey. We had a sale just leading up to Christmas of some really small casks, so you could rapidly age the Poitín at home and find out what the whiskey would be. And we're already getting feedback from customers who are now placing deposits for the actual product.
That's
like,
amazing.
My God, I need to get my hands on this, right? And to be able to know that you have a piece of batch one is pretty exciting. So
I look forward to the future with you guys.
Thank you.
I plan to be back, and I may purchase a bottle on my way out today, as I need to support a local company. Awesome.
Thank you.
Fantastic talk today. Really appreciate you taking time in your schedule to speak with us about the Ogham brand and everything else that you're clearly very passionate about. I'm glad that we're getting your voice out there to our fellow Canadian and American and European consumers. I've got no other questions for you. Let people know where they can find you.
Of course, yeah. So of course, you can come to the distillery here in Kanata. We're just across from the Costco, as we said a couple of times. We're also at farmers markets in Stittsville and in Perth. We're looking to expand further into the city as well. But in the event that you can't meet us at one of those events, you can definitely shop online. We ship everywhere that Canada Post ships. So feel free to order 1 or 2 of our things, maybe even 6, because 6 is what fits in a box. And let us know what you think.
Amazing. And social media, how can people find you?
Yeah, so we've kept it nice and simple. It's Ogham Craft Spirits. Instagram is our main social media. Everything gets copied onto Facebook as well. But even before our newsletter sometimes, our new releases, all of our latest goes out on Instagram first.
Awesome. So we're going to add all that in the show notes. As for us, it's allbeerinside.com on the website, at allbeerinside on all social media. And as I say at the end of all episodes, drink craft, not crap.